welcome to the show. I'm here on the crew with some more vehicles to try and drive up the Pikes Peak course as quickly as possible, and we start today with a Nissan Skyline, the R34 Skyline in a performance spec. Yes, it is quite a silly looking vehicle. We have many vents on the bonnet, lots of vents. We have all sorts of crazy aero bits on the front, diffusers and the sticky outy bits on the side. Like they're huge sticky outy bits on the side. We also have a slightly strange, I haven't figured out what it's for, scoop on the side skirts. You can just about see it over there. I don't know what it's for. I don't know why it's there, but we do have a scoop on the side skirts, and then we have a sizable wing. Maybe not the craziest height-wise, but it's certainly a very large wing. We have a diffuser on the back. It's a suitably silly-looking vehicle. This one, however, I do expect it to be pretty quick. I think this could be a pretty damn fast car when it comes to this hill climb course, because it's four-wheel drive and has an awful lot of traction. Much like the Hummer, when you go to use the nitro in this car, I have found, my brief experience, I haven't driven it very far, but my brief experience is that you can actually use the nitro in this car. You can use the nitro without it constantly spinning the wheels, which suggests to me that we have an awful lot of grip, an awful lot of traction, and that should be good. It should make it certainly easier to drive up this hill, and the specifications also kind of confirm this point in some respect. As per usual with this series, standard level 40 car, this one. We got 600 horsepower near enough, we got 465 torque, and we weigh just a tiny bit over 3,000 pounds. And put this all together, and it's sort of decent numbers. The car's four-wheel drive, it seems to have decent traction. I think this could go quite quickly. I really do. I think this could be quite a nice car to drive. We're certainly not going to have problems with wheel spin, I wouldn't think. If the rear-wheel drive cars like the M5 and the Shelby Mustang can drive this course without problems of sliding, a four-wheel drive Skyline, yeah, I think this could be quite good. The only one slight concern that we could have with this is, of course, scraping that front aero stuff on the way up the hill. That could be a bit of a problem. Hopefully it won't be, but that is probably the biggest scare with this vehicle, would be scraping the front of the car. As you can see, it is quite low. It's not the lowest we've had, but it is quite low. Right, oopsie, I've cycled through the cameras too far. Here we go. Okay, we will get ready with the Skyline and fire it at the mountain, and hopefully it will be quite good. There was a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a scrape on the launch, but that's fairly commonplace for many vehicles. That's not too bad as of yet. And through these first corners, okay, a little bit of understeer, but there is a huge amount of grip. I already like this car. There is a lot of grip in this Skyline. Yeah, and I kind of expected this will quite like this course, because I got to remember not to get too carried away and try and take too much speed in this. That's one of the dangers with a car like this that has so much grip. You think, oh yes, I can definitely go really fast through this corner, when you actually kind of can't. You can't take unlimited speed through the corners, but it is a quick car. Little bit of a scrape again through there. That's one of the bigger bumps, if you like, on this route. It's not really slowing the car down. It does move about a little bit over these bumps. Whoa, that got a... Oh, we are a bit slidey. This is... That's not quite what I expected from this. With the Shelby being so composed for a Shelby up here, I wasn't quite expecting the Skyline to be sliding. I mean, this slides a little bit more than the blooming Mustang does. Okay, yeah, whoa, that's a very big slide. That's not what I thought. This was going to be lovely. It has plenty of grip. Just when you're pushing it as hard as I'm now trying to push it, the back end is wanting to step out on it. Okay, that's not what I expected from the Skyline. I thought we were going to be lovely and composed the entire way up. Oh, I almost clipped the inside. I've had a slight moment and I can't get it back off that. But you got slight. One of those times where it's got itself sort of stuck on the grass and can't pull the car off. That's never helpful. Well, I have a brake and a downshift. Again, yeah, can carry good speed through there. If you do try and check this car around, it doesn't quite have the grip I was looking for from it. Okay. It also is perhaps... it's pretty quick in a straight line, actually. The 150 mile/hour mark across that jump is about average for cars. Oh, no, it's not quite. It's not quite got the grip that I was expecting from it. It's not quite, you can't quite carry, you can carry decent corner speed in it, but it doesn't feel quite as, yeah, it doesn't feel quite as quick as some of the cars that I've had before. It does take a little bit of a bump off the inside of the course, and it is across the line for the Skyline. A good car, certainly. Yeah, it's certainly not a bad vehicle to drive. It is a little bit more oversteery than expected when really pushed hard, and yeah, you will have to be a little bit careful with the front of it. It gets scraped a couple of times, and certainly if you put a wheel on the grass somewhere, you're going to have a tough time getting it off again. It did kind of get dragged along that particular bit, but it makes it to the top of the course without too many dramas. Yeah, not quite as much overall grip as I expected from the Nissan. Our next vehicle is the Nissan 370z. This one in circuit spec. It's essentially one of the JGTC cars. I hope I've got that right. That's a real pain to say. Yeah, it's basically one of them. It has a crazy body kit. I do like the exhaust sort of sticking out the side there. We have a big wing. Yes, we have all of the aero bits at the back. We even have some mesh in the rear wheel arches. Yeah, it's a circuit car, a full-on circuit vehicle. Hello, officer, don't mind me. My concerns with this one, again, are how low the front of the car is. It's also got very strange carbon fibre flappy bits at the front. They are weird scoops that it has on here. The front of this car is incredible, as you can see here. Just when I backed it up, the splitter is kind of going through the curb. That's kind of quite low to the ground. And while it is going through this curb, I'm not sure it will like the bumps so much on the course that we're about to drive it up. Could be a problem for the Nissan. As normal with circuit cars, there's always the slight fear that they will have so much power that they'll spin the wheels up. They can be a little bit scary over the bumps. This isn't an off-road circuit, of course, but the tarmac isn't completely smooth, which does cause the problem for a few of the circuit vehicles. As far as actual specs go, 515 horsepower, slightly less horsepower than the Skyline, slightly less torque than the Skyline, but it is 400 pounds lighter. So one of the lighter cars I've seen actually on the crew. A lot of the vehicles tend to be a bit heavier. This is quite a light vehicle, which could also be a problem for bouncing and wheel spinning around. I don't know. I honestly don't know quite what to expect from the 370. It could be a blooming fast car, this, as per normal with the circuit cars. You know, they are circuit vehicles. If it all goes well, yes, it'll be quick. I think we're going to scrape along the floor quite a lot, and it could be too light. But there's only one way to find out as to get in the cockpit, and pray, please don't try and kill me, Nissan, okay? Please be nice as we set off. Amazingly, we didn't get any sparks from the front splitter. That's not what I was expecting from you. I was thinking we were going to be sparking most of the way up the course, but no, apparently not. Right, into the first few corners. Okay, so far so good. The back end didn't want to get away from me, which is nice when you try to carry that sort of speed through these corners for the first time. Ooh, it did want to get away from me there a little bit. Now we're starting to get into the slightly rougher. Ooh, we do have nice grip. We have a lot of turning in this car, which is nice. Certainly good to have on this particular course. Yeah, we have loads of turning in this vehicle. That's quite nice. And ooh, okay, a little bit of a bump on the inside. It didn't scrape though. It did chuck the car out a little bit wide, and then we're flying up here without too many problems. Yeah, I'm not having to short shift. I'm not having to be really careful with the throttle to stop it wheel spinning. We're not sliding around out of the corners either. Okay, this is good. This is good from the Nissan so far. And even when I chuck it in at higher speeds, there's a little bit of a slightly dodgy corner there from me. But when I chuck it in at a bit higher speed, the back end isn't sliding around too much. That typical. The time I bloody say it, at the time the car gets a tiny bit sideways. But it's not sliding around anywhere near as much as the Skyline did on this particular run. Alright, we'll slow it down again for this one. Oh, we can even, look at that, we can even hug the inside of the course, and it doesn't chuck the car up in the air. That's quite remarkable, actually. The back end does get let go, but only when you're really pushing it, and only then does it let go very slightly. It doesn't slide around anywhere near the same as the Skyline did. And then now this corner, ooh, okay, that time we did get a very big slide. That's the only time this car's got unhappy. It's the only time it's got unhappy coming out of the corner. That's slightly disappointing from the from the 370Z, and there had to be a rock in the way. Still bloody gets up to 150 across the jumps. Yeah, again, scrape on the floor. On the landing area of that one. Oh, and now I'm pushing it a little bit too much. Are we going to have traffic? We are going to have traffic, but it's on the outside, so it's not a problem. And up towards the finish line for the Nissan, and there's a bit of a scrape across the line with the 370. It got unhappy on one corner and very nearly screwed everything up. Lost a little bit of time in that. Okay, it is a nice car to drive, actually. That one corner has annoyed me that it just got sideways. So why did the brakes suddenly... Oh, the brakes get very... Brakes get very hot when stopping from 30 miles an hour. Yes. Yeah, that one corner kind of let it down a little bit. On the most part, this was a very, very nice car to drive. From the lower speed corners, I guess you're going to have to be careful. Maybe just hit a bump slightly wrong. It is still a circuit car after all. But despite that very, very low and huge front splitter, only scraped a couple of times on the entire way up the course. Yeah, on the most part, a very nice car to drive. Has very, very good turning. Very good turning to the corners. This Nissan. The back end will stay planted most of the time. It will just let go a little bit if you aren't sort of completely and utterly careful with it everywhere. Our third and final vehicle of the day is the Lamborghini Miura. Again, this one is in performance spec. Yes, it has a wing on the back. I don't think there is a choice to remove wings, and this is the best wing. You shouldn't have a wing on a Miura. As much as I like crazy wings, you shouldn't have a wing on a Miura. But this is the better of the two options, because it's either have a silly wing there, or have a silly wing at the top of the rear window. And that's just strange. And I couldn't do that. Even I couldn't do that to a Miura. So we have a huge wing on the back of the car. And we have an amusing sort of beard around the front of it as well, just for good measure. I don't know what to expect from this car. Honestly, I am not sure what to expect from the Miura on this run. Specifications, well, it's one of the lightest cars we've had, £2,500, and that's in performance spec. We haven't quite got as much power or as much torque as perhaps the Skyline, but I would imagine this could be quite a quick car, but it might be difficult to drive. That is the fear with the classic Lamborghini. It could be a bit of a pain to drive. It could be quite oversteery. It could be amazing. There is always that possibility with the cars on here. Much like I expected the Shelby Mustang to be terrible, and it wasn't. If this does have enough grip, this could be a very, very quick car. If it doesn't have enough grip and starts sliding around, it could go wrong quite quickly. We don't have a silly diffuser on the front, so I'm not concerned about scraping the car. I mean, it's a supercar. It's low to the ground, but we don't have the really low-hanging diffusers, so I don't think we're going to have a problem with it scraping its way up the course. Will it be controllable through the corners? That's the big concern with this car. Fingers crossed the Lamborghini can set a good time. I'd like to see a Miura towards the top of the leaderboards. Right, we are underway with typical, we do scrape the front of this bloody car. Setting off when there's no diffuser. Whatever. Okay, Lamborghini, how do we fare? It already feels a little... how do we fare through here? It does feel quite light, and sure enough, the back end is wanting to slide around a little bit. Not as bad as it could be. It definitely feels light. It feels twitchy. Maybe twitchy is a little bit unfair. It definitely feels very, very responsive, bordering on twitchy with the steering input of this car. It also has very long gear ratios, it seems. Turning a little bit. So we are now scraping the front quite badly. Typical. The one car that I don't think will is the one car that has all the... Never, doesn't make sense. Don't ask me, I don't know anything. You should know this by now. Okay, it isn't spinning the wheels up so much. It's kind of moving around a lot. That's the easiest way to... Still, we're creating sparks off the front of this car. This is almost as bad as the McLaren. Not quite. I don't think it's been as bad as that. The poor front of this car. I don't know why it is this one in particular, but it's having a tough time up here. Yeah, it's not been too bad to drive, though. You definitely notice the lightweight feel to the car. Whoop! We've got some bloody suicidal animals running across the course. Okay, and brakes are quite nice. Get stopped pretty quickly. We're clonking around. Still blooming Lamborghini. Okay, how fast dare I chuck it? Oh no, I daren't chuck it into these corners particularly. Oh, we just clipped the inside. Got away with it though. Got away with it on that one. Yeah, it's not been oversteery as such, this vehicle. It's a bit of a strange one to drive in many respects. It hasn't quite been oversteery, and even out of here, where the Nissan struggled, we don't have a problem with the Lamborghini. How do we do for straight line speed? I would hope that this car is quite quick. I would imagine that it would be fairly good. Yeah, 150 mile an hour before the corner. We're going to be 160 almost across the jump. Got a little bit scary on the landing then. It got a little bit light. You're never quite sure when you land on that, when the car kind of goes a little bit light. It may just have a mind of its own and throw itself to the side of the course. That's when things get scary. There is no traffic around this corner, which is nice. I can push the car through there, and it's up towards the finish line. We're running wide in the Miura. Well, it's across the line. Hey, landed it. I stuck the landing. Oh, the Miura does a flip after crossing the finish line. We got some understeer around that corner, which I wasn't expecting from this vehicle. Okay, it's not at all what I expected when it came to driving this car. I thought it might be a bit oversteery. It wasn't really, but it is quite a twitchy vehicle around the course. Certainly lively enough up here. And we scraped the front the entire way up. And I don't know quite why that is. But yeah, that's never quite so good. Otherwise, yeah, the Miura was an interesting car. It certainly drives differently to almost anything else I've had up here. It certainly feels like one of the lightest cars to drive. And yeah, interesting. Has its own quirks certainly to deal with. And it did a barrel roll for style as well, which should be some bonus points, I think. On to the times, and we have a new second place vehicle. The Nissan 370z moves into second, and that's not too far off the Viper that had a fairly sizable gap over the rest of the field. That's been closed in by the Nissan. Nissan just let down by a tiny little slide. That was what cost the Nissan. The Viper didn't have any such problems. Nissan's still a blooming good car though. That 370z is not bad at all. We have to look a little further down the leaderboard, but not too far, to find the Lamborghini Miura. It goes into 9th with a 228.9 into that very, very crowded area. I mean, it's a second between 4th and 9th. Not bad from the Lamborghini, and it gets, of course, bonus points for the flip across the line. And it's also not that further down that we find the Nissan Skyline, a 229.1. I actually expected that car to perhaps be a little bit quicker, but it didn't quite have the grip of some of the other vehicles. Still, as I said, it's only just over a second between 4th and 11th for the Skyline. It's very close in that mid-table sort of area. However, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.